It finally ended when we smashed the place apart, piece by piece. There are few things more satisfying than physically destroying the place that you used to work in with your own hands. It's even more satisfying if you do it whilst blind drunk. The place was the Workhouse Bar, Leicester's then premier haven for underage drinkers and drug dealers, a real zesty, zeitgeisty sort of place. The year was 1992. I was 20. Ecstasy was £15 for a pill, and you really did love everybody when you took it. These things are impossible to explain now to anyone who wasn't there, especially in the cultural current climate. The drug dealers stood in the back alley, and the real underage drinkers were in the doorways of the closed down buildings on either side of the front. You could of course still smoke inside in those heady days, though the smoking of drugs always came after we closed, the staff fringe benefits. The only place in England I've ever known smoking dope to be acceptable was the back room of the St John's pub in Hull. Enid, the old landlady, would come into the windowless space in her slippers and bark at us to get out come closing time, our weary eyelids drooping as we shuffled out after playing Little Red Rooster by the Stones too many times on the old jukebox. The workhouse was rumoured to have a kinky gym. I never quite knew what this was, but I know that rumours abounded about the goings-on in that place. I know firsthand there was no kinky gym. Only an old bench press down there in the cellar, classic Chinese whispers. The owner, a fat grubby Uncle Monty character, would offer us £50 to any of his boys that let him suck us off. I declined, though not everyone else did. Not that I'm averse to cock. You know my mantra, I take my coffee sweet and black like the first cock that I sucked. There are enough perks of the job to keep us happy. Smokes, free entry into the best club around for free. Free drinks if we stood talking to the dirty old man at the bar. Every pump in the cellar was connected to a weaker, cheaper barrel than indicated on the taps at the bar. These were the taps that we enjoyed smashing off with a wooden mallet. Knees on the bar and bash that cider tap off. Watch the cider spurting from the now open-ended pipe, arc-like behind the bar. Now it's time for the mirrors and wall lights. There were 3 of us lads there, all ex-employees, and my girlfriend. A mate ended up fucking her that night. I'd ended up with a recent ex of his just before, but couldn't quite close the deal. I couldn't fucking get it up. That happened to me so many times in my early days, and still does. Viagra or being in love are the only cures I've found. Before the bar finally closed down, which led us to be left with the keys to a derelict bar that fateful night, it had been the jewel in Leicester's crown. The police had been so inept at raiding the place it was funny. Plainclothes policemen looking like plainclothes policemen would come down and loom over the bar at lunchtime. We had a good trade in working lunches for the officers nearby, and then they'd ask for drugs. We would say, "What are you talking about?" and carry on as usual. When the bus began to come at night, the real illicit time, the owner would always receive a tip and inform the dealers. The dealers disappeared into the night within seconds. One morning after an attempted bust, I found a bag of trips, Bart Simpson's in case you were wondering, and an eighth of weed the dealers had dropped in their rush to leave. Perfect for my first of many trips to Glastonbury. That weekend was a weekend that changed my life, the peak of the rave years, and a holy ground for the left field mind. Another time after work I found a scrunched up newspaper that contained some weird dried mushrooms. I went to the boss and he told me how to prepare them. Later we took them on a trip to Hull and giggled for hours whilst listening to H.P. Lovecraft, the psychedelic 60s band, and the Grateful Dead's first 2 albums. If you're gonna take psychedelics, do it in style. The end was closing in. I had gone away to university and missed the final throws of the dice. Eventually it was too illegal to live, a time and a place that none involved will ever forget. I was introduced to the rapier gay wit there. After work one night, I stood back to back with another guy, seeing who was taller. The difference was marked. It's a good 3 inches, someone proclaimed. There's no such thing as a good 3 inches, came the reply. Indeed. We blamed the wreckage on the local bikers and hoped we wouldn't go to prison for the many thousands of pounds of damage we did. Nobody ever came knocking. I sit here now all these years later pondering this and other more pressing matters.